Deputy State Coroner Derek Hand today handed down his findings concerning the death of Alexander Amy, found hanged in his cell at Endeavour House. Mr Hand found that Amy had a fear of being sent to an adult prison and had been told by other inmates that he was going to be sent to one. He found the youth had willingly hanged himself and that no other person was involved. The inquiry into the death of Dermot Pigeon also continued. The court was told by a prisoner from Maitland jail how the youth had pleaded to be moved from his cell because another man had died there 6 months ago. Gary Thompson told the court the condition of the cell had also contributed to Pigeon's depression. He said it was the worst cell in the block, with no emergency buzzer, no electricity and no seat or cover on its toilet. He said despite attempts to clean it, the cell remained in a horrible condition. Pigeon asked to be transferred to another cell, but was told there were none available. He was found hanged in his cell 3 days after arriving at Maitland Prison. The coroner has now adjourned the inquiry until the 29th of October, when it will recommence in the Glebe Coroner's Court. His findings and recommendations are expected the following day. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
The Maitland Mutual Building Society, established in 1888, has seen many changes. In the early 1890s, its assets totalled around £5,000 or $10,000. Those were the days when a home loan for a family house like this one averaged £125, around $250. Now the Society has assets of $27 million and has helped over 2,000 families establish their homes in Maitland. Tom Morgan decided to write his book Mutually Yours when the Society turned 100 in 1988.
Well, I think to survive for 100 years as a financial institution or as any business is quite an achievement, and it should be marked by something that remains permanent for all time. And I felt that by publishing this book there would be a permanent record of the first 100 years of the Society.
The Maitland Building Society is the second oldest of its kind in the state, just behind the Illawarra Society. The book details the history of the institution through the wars, the Depression, floods and economic fluctuations. It will be officially launched in Maitland tonight.
Inside, Moore takes on Lazard. Moore, plenty of space in there, just rolls it away for a good two. Men in numbers inside to James Bullock. Better play by the Falcons.
Yes, excellent.
Floggins now breaks out quickly, gives it off to Moore, off the glass, 2 points. Bullock, oh, Sibley all over him. Will it drop? It does. Gets it back outside to Loggins. Loggins, three-point attempt, makes it.
Score, they're going to be full court pressing. They're not going to give away anything.
James. Tapped away by Reese, but he picks it up again. Lazard gives it off to Bullock. Bullock in the paint, got around Sibley very well and slams it away for two. Bullock taking on Sibley, gets inside the paint. That's a brilliant basket. Gets it out to Peter Hill. Peter Hill, three-point attempt. Makes it! All tied up at the Newcastle Sports Entertainment Centre.
The Health and Research Employees Association is calling for blood after a report on asbestos dangers was allegedly withheld from staff for nearly 2 years. Mark Bird from the association says the hospital's safety officer should have advised workers of any dangers, and the union has demanded he be stood down.
The safety officer is supposed to look after our safety, and we don't believe he has done this, so we have got no confidence in this position.
The hospital's management has announced a full independent legal inquiry into the matter and stated no one would be stood down pending the findings, hence a standoff with the union. From Monday, the HREA members have banned auxiliary services to executive suites, meaning no food or stationary services. The union is yet to meet on yesterday's shock announcement of the reducing of hospital bed numbers to 150. All jobs have been assured by the Minister, Peter Collins. However, some people will be forced to transfer to other hospitals. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
This was the scene last Friday when a 50-metre section of scaffolding on King Street peeled away from the building being demolished. Miraculously, no one was hurt and damage to cars below was only minor. But the accident has prompted calls from the BWIU for scaffolders to be on the site at all times when demolition work is being carried out.
We're making sure that all possible steps are taken to keep it as safe as possible, and that will include insisting that the scaffolders remain on the job for the duration of the job.
The Work Cover Authority had 2 inspectors on site today to prepare a report. It'll be their job to determine what caused the scaffold to fall and to make recommendations ensuring it doesn't happen again. There was no comment from the demolition company today. But the Department of Industrial Relations has ordered the wall on the Union Street side be demolished by hand to reduce the risk to traffic and passers-by. Late today, one westbound lane of King Street was reopened to traffic, although lengthy delays during peak hour were experienced. John Church, NBN News.
Bishop Austin Vaughan is a frontliner in the fight against abortion in the United States. He's been arrested and jailed several times for his cause. At tonight's meeting, he spoke of the individual rights of an unborn child, the worth of each life, and the creation of the soul by God.
There's no comparison between a trauma caused to any of us and the direct killing of a human being. And in this case, in every case where there's an abortion, there's a human being whose life is wiped out, and in each case it's a human being who has not had time to do any harm to anybody.
His aim is to make people aware of what he says is the reality of abortion by keeping the issue in the public eye. He told tonight's meeting the end of abortion should be the world's most important priority, second only to the spiritual salvation of souls.
The concept of private hospitals taking public hospital patients might sound controversial, but in fact it is already happening in the Hunter. For the past 2 years, and more so since last December's earthquake, orthopaedic, cardiac and eye surgery patients have been directed from the public hospital system to private hospitals. The orthopaedic patients are being seen at Toronto Private Hospital at a cost to the Hunter Area Health Board of $1.3 million per week. For the health service, it is cheaper in some instances to send public patients to private hospitals. A cataract operation costs $1,500 privately, yet between $2,000 and $3,000 in a public hospital. For these public patients, private hospital treatment is free, yet an anomaly exists for those who are in a private health fund but who do not have top cover.
In some cases, under the current circumstances, they would be required to pay small amounts out of their pocket. I'm talking for the hospital costs at the moment. But as these new tables are introduced by the health funds, that particular amount being paid out of their pocket will disappear.
The report's other suggestion, the private sector managing public hospitals, is seen as a long way off, though it remains a possibility in the areas of cleaning and catering.
Since the operation started here in 1988, Delta Hover has steadily turned out a couple of craft a year, all for Australian customers. Now production is set to rise dramatically. The company is about to enter an agreement with an Indonesian banking group to begin production of Hovercraft in Jakarta. The joint shareholders will start a new company in Indonesia. Under a reciprocal arrangement, much of the labour-intensive work will be carried out there, while technology development will take place here. Company principal Barry Wilson says the deal will mean a dramatic upsurge in production.
They think it's quite big in Indonesia. They initially were talking about 20 in Indonesia itself, but now they're talking about 80. That's probably over some years, but quite a large market.
The Indonesian group has also agreed to buy a $425,000 hovercraft now under construction, which will enter service between Bali and neighbouring Lombok Island. The Indonesians say they'll produce hovercraft at a lower cost to play a vital role in moving millions of tourists expected on the archipelago during a Visit Indonesia campaign to be launched next year. Many of the islands don't have jetties or wharves, and inland villages lie many kilometres upriver. The Indonesians believe Delta Hover's product is ideal for their conditions.
Our sea is not very deep and very shallow waters, and also we have rivers. And as we compare with the other hovercraft, I think the Delta Hovercraft will do the job.
After a morning of high drama, it was a routine touchdown for 55-year-old North Rothbury pilot Noel Manning. The alarm was raised early this morning when the pilot contacted Sydney Air Traffic Control saying he'd become disorientated in heavy fog shortly after takeoff from Cessnock Airport on a routine flight to Scone.
Around about 2,500 feet. Fog and everything was started to drop in, so I did a 180 to turn back to come back to Cessnock, and it filled in straight behind me.
Sydney Air Traffic Control advised Noel to climb out of the cloud bank and circle. Shortly later, he descended on instructions and sighted a clear paddock at 150 metres. From then on, Noel says, it was textbook all the way.
In your training and everything, you're taught to circle over the part where you're going to land and put it down in the least distance is possible, and I think I put it down right almost on an old runway, and it's landed. I've pulled it up within 100 yards.
Noel had just to walk across the road to a neighbouring farmhouse to make a call to police. He says he'll fly the Cessna Cherokee out of the paddock tomorrow, depending on the weather. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Newcastle's Lord Mayor yesterday updated the city's progress in the 7 months since the December quake. In a speech designed to put the facts on record, Alderman John McNaughton documented the number of earthquake-related building applications received by council so far.
1,727 building applications worth $62 million relating to the earthquake have been received.
But that $62 million doesn't tally with figures from the Insurance Council of Australia. With 30,000 claims settled at the end of June, the insurance industry says it's paid claims to the value of $250 million. That's a discrepancy of more than $180 million, prompting the question, where's all the money gone?
There's a fair bit of illegal work being carried out, which would account for some of it. In a lot of other instances, I guess owners haven't decided what to do. And we also suspect that in the case of a number of residential premises, people are simply demolishing the houses and walking away and sort of putting the sites up for sale.
There's obviously been a massive leakage of funds from the system. Discounting that a lot of work would not require formal building approval, the figures are disturbing in that they indicate a trend away from improving the city's stock of residential buildings as people choose to cash up rather than renovate or repair.
Well, it does concern us because while the building stock is down, naturally the population is down, and this council is keen to see the population increase. So it is a concern, but whether it's only a temporary problem or not remains to be seen.
Almost 60 people were reported missing to police in the Hunter region this year alone. So far, 43 have been located. Most on the police missing persons files are teenagers, many just 13 or 14 years old. This is Missing Persons Week, and Newcastle Police have put together a display wall of just a few of those people, which they're exhibiting at Garden City in Katara. But they say the easiest way to close their files is through a simple phone call.
If they've left the home in an irrational state after an argument, it's quite possible that they, after a period of time, haven't realised that the family have reported them missing to the police. If somebody has done that, then naturally we'll be requesting them to go to a police station or just give us a call.
And today, police launched Operation Phone Home. People who've been out of touch with family or friends for any length of time can dial 008 025 091 and let police know that they're at least alive and out of danger. Police stress that a missing person hasn't committed a crime and the call is confidential.
They don't have to tell us where they are or what they're doing, simply that they're okay and that they're out by themselves of their own free will.
There are cases police doubt will be solved by a phone call. Some local faces have haunted them for years. Among them, Leanne Goodall disappeared, aged 20 in 1978, last seen boarding a train at Muswellbrook. Or Debbie Pritchard, last seen at a Newcastle nightclub in 1982. The 24-year-old hasn't been seen since. Robin Hickey, only 17, last seen in 1979 at a bus stop on the Pacific Highway. Or Amanda Robinson, only 14 when she disappeared from a bus stop at Swansea in 1979. 16-year-old Amanda Zolas disappeared in 1979 after a telephone call to her father. For the families of all these missing girls, life has been a limbo of uncertainty. All police need to end the despair of those and other families is a phone call. After that, the no longer missing person can still walk out of their lives, at least leaving one mystery solved. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
According to police, the Bowmans crossing bridge 8 kilometres northwest of Jerry's Plains has been the scene of 26 serious vehicle crashes in the last 10 years. 2 people have been killed on the Hunter River crossing. Last August, Transport Minister Baird promised a replacement for the old timber bridge. Now the Road and Transport Authority has made 6 options available for public discussion.
The difference between the options is the degree of flood immunity that they provide. And of course, the higher the flood immunity, the higher the cost.
The design options range from coping with a 1 in 1 year flood to the most elevated design to handle a 1 in 100 years flood. The preferred option is the 1 in 20 at a cost of $3 million. The plans are on show for a month at Jerry's Plains, Muswellbrook, Singleton and Denman. Meanwhile, motorists will suffer at least another 4 years of the old bridge. Workers will only start on its replacement in August 1992.
Genevieve Wallace from Mayfield and Penny Johansson from Tamworth are going places in the art world. Genevieve won first prize in the black and white section of the Australian Entomological Society's annual competition. Penny collected 2 second prizes, one for a black and white sketch, the other in colour. The national competition was open to professionals and students, so winning an award should put students a step ahead of other graduates when it's time to enter the workforce.
It means they sort of know your name, that sometimes they have contract work and that sort of thing, and if they know your name and they know you're good, you're more likely to get the work than someone who just turns up out of the blue.
All second and third year art students enter the competition as part of their course.
It's an indication of how our students are going in amongst the rest of the bunch all over Australia and perhaps overseas too. It's a fabulous start for them. If they can get their foot in the door by winning prizes like this, then they can sort of go on to bigger and better things.
So where do Genevieve and Penny stand in comparison to other students?
At the tops. They're unbelievable. They're very good artists amongst a great bunch of environmental artists here.